Welcome to Crash Book, your book in a capsule. Introduction to the compound effect. Picture this. You're standing at the foot of a mountain, staring up at its towering peak. It seems impossible to reach the top, but as you take that first step, you realize something remarkable. It's not the giant leaps that matter, but the consistent small steps you take every single day. This is the essence of the compound effect. It's the hidden force that shapes our lives, whether we're aware of it or not. The small choices we make, like what we eat, how we spend our time, or how we react to challenges, add up in ways that can lead to extraordinary success or devastating failure. The beauty of the compound effect lies in its simplicity. Tiny actions, compounded over time, have the power to change everything. In this book, Darren Hardy will reveal how the little decisions we make on a daily basis accumulate into the results we experience in our lives. No dramatic overnight transformations or sudden breakthroughs, just the steady and relentless progression of small habits that, when stacked together, can take you from ordinary to extraordinary. Are you ready to understand how your choices are shaping your future, one small step at a time? Then, let's dive into the first chapter of the compound effect and uncover the secrets of making small, powerful decisions that can change your life forever. The compound effect, Chapter 1. The compound effect in action. Imagine a snowball rolling down a hill. It starts off small, almost insignificant, but as it continues to roll, it picks up speed and mass. Soon, it's no longer just a small ball of snow. It has grown into a massive force that can't be stopped. This is the concept Darren Hardy introduces in the compound effect, that small, seemingly insignificant actions, when compounded over time, can lead to remarkable changes. The compound effect isn't about sudden breakthroughs or major transformations. Rather, it's about the power of consistency and small, everyday decisions that lead to massive results. In the first chapter, Hardy opens by challenging the common misconception that significant achievements come from big, dramatic actions. He argues that the opposite is true. The key to success lies in the tiny, daily choices we make. These choices might seem trivial in the moment, but when repeated consistently, they add up and create an enormous impact over time. Whether it's choosing to exercise for 20 minutes a day, eating a healthier meal, or reading a few pages of a book every night, these small actions compound and lead to extraordinary results. The beauty of the compound effect is that it's both simple and profound. It's not about making major, radical changes overnight, but about building positive habits that build momentum over time. Hardy uses the example of a person who decides to read just 10 pages a day. While 10 pages may seem insignificant, by the end of the year, this person will have read 3,650 pages, equivalent to reading about 12 books. Imagine the growth, knowledge, and skills they've gained over time, all from just a small commitment to reading daily. This principle extends to every area of life, whether it's health, finances, relationships, or career. For example, if you choose to save just a small percentage of your income regularly, over time, this will compound into significant wealth. Similarly, if you consistently invest in your relationships with small gestures of kindness, your connections will deepen and become more fulfilling. Hardy emphasizes that the compound effect is a neutral force. It can work for you or against you, depending on the choices you make. The same principle applies to negative habits. A small indulgence, like eating an unhealthy snack every day or skipping exercise, may not seem like much at the time, but over weeks, months, and years, these small decisions can lead to serious health problems, weight gain, and other negative consequences. The compound effect doesn't discriminate. It works in both directions. It's up to you whether you harness it for positive or negative outcomes. One of the most critical aspects of the compound effect is the idea of momentum. When you consistently make positive choices, you start to build momentum. Just like the snowball rolling down the hill, once momentum kicks in, it becomes easier and easier to continue making positive decisions. This momentum makes the process feel less like a struggle and more like an effortless, automatic habit. In fact, the more positive actions you take, the easier it becomes to continue, and the more momentum you gain toward your goals. Hardy also discusses the importance of tracking your progress and measuring your actions. One of the key reasons many people fail to achieve their goals is that they don't track their progress. Without tracking, it's easy to overlook the small daily actions you're taking and how they're adding up. By tracking your actions, whether it's through a journal, app, or another method, you create awareness and accountability. You're able to see the impact of your decisions in real time and adjust course if needed. A critical part of the process is also recognizing the power of patience. The compound effect doesn't yield immediate results. It's easy to become discouraged when you don't see quick outcomes, but Hardy emphasizes that the results of the compound effect are cumulative. They take time to appear. The key is to stay patient and trust that, over time, your consistent efforts will pay off. Just like the snowball that takes time to grow, your efforts may not seem significant at first, but with patience and persistence, they will eventually create an unstoppable force. In summary, the first chapter of the compound effect sets the foundation for the entire book. It introduces the idea that success and failure are the result of small, everyday choices compounded over time. These choices, whether positive or negative, have the power to shape our futures. The compound effect works for anyone. If you consistently make small, positive choices, you will eventually see big results. Whether it's reading a little each day, saving a small portion of your income, or making healthier food choices, the key to success is understanding the power of small actions and being consistent. The compound effect is a powerful tool that can transform your life, but it requires patience, discipline, and a willingness to take small steps toward your goals every single day. The Compound Effect, Chapter 2, Choices. It was a crisp morning, and Emma was standing in front of her closet, staring at her clothes, unsure of what to wear for the day. She had a busy schedule ahead, and every decision seemed like a challenge. But then, she remembered something she had read the night before, a simple truth that made her pause. Every choice, no matter how small, had the potential to shape the direction of her life. Emma wasn't the only one facing this daily crossroads. Each of us faces decisions constantly. What should I eat for breakfast? Should I go for a walk? Do I reply to this email now or wait until later? These might seem like minor, inconsequential choices in the grand scheme of things, but as Darren Hardy explains in Chapter 2 of The Compound Effect, it's these small decisions, made every day, that lead to the results we experience in our lives. As Emma made her decision to wear something that made her feel confident and comfortable, she reflected on how much power these small choices truly held. She realized that they were the foundation of her success, her health, and her relationships. The choice she made that morning wasn't just about clothes. It was a reflection of her approach to life. Would she choose the easy route, the path of least resistance, or would she make decisions that would serve her long-term goals? Hardy's message in Chapter 2 is simple. You are where you are today because of the choices you've made in the past. Every decision you make, whether it's about your career, your health, or your relationships, is a building block that will eventually determine your future. But it's easy to overlook the power of small decisions. They seem trivial at the time, but when they compound, they become something far more significant. Emma had always wondered why some people seemed to have it all together, while others struggled. Now she understood. It wasn't about luck or chance. It was about the small, consistent decisions those people made every day. They chose to invest in their health, their relationships, and their personal growth, one small step at a time. And those steps, when compounded over months and years, created massive success. Hardy brings us back to the snowball effect, a metaphor that describes how small actions, when repeated consistently, grow over time. Just as a tiny snowball gains size and momentum as it rolls down a hill, our decisions, too, gather momentum. The more we make positive choices, the more momentum we create, and the easier it becomes to continue making those choices. But what about the other side of the coin? What happens when we make poor decisions? Emma remembered how, just a few months ago, she had been eating fast food for lunch every day, skipping exercise, and procrastinating on important projects. At the time, none of those choices seemed like a big deal. She wasn't gaining 10 pounds overnight, and she wasn't missing major deadlines. But when she looked back, she saw that those small, seemingly harmless decisions had compounded into a series of negative results. Weight gain, increased stress, and missed opportunities. The same principle applies to bad choices. Skipping one workout doesn't seem like a big deal, but when repeated over time, it can lead to poor health and low energy. Eating that extra piece of cake or ignoring your goals might not have immediate consequences, but over the course of weeks or months, it can prevent you from reaching your full potential. The compound effect doesn't care whether your choices are positive or negative. It simply magnifies whatever you choose. Hardy emphasizes that small choices are the building blocks of your destiny. Whether it's choosing to wake up early, choosing to invest in a personal development course, or deciding to have a difficult conversation with a loved one, the cumulative effect of these decisions shapes the course of our lives. Just like the compound interest of money, the more you invest in yourself and your goals, the greater the return you will see in the future. But here's the trick. It's not about making perfect decisions every time. It's about consistency. Emma realized that even though she wouldn't always make the perfect choice, it was the act of consistently making better choices that would change her life. Hardy stresses the importance of staying on track, even when the rewards aren't immediately visible. The key to success isn't about big wins. It's about steady, consistent actions over time. By the end of the chapter, Emma felt a shift in her mindset. She no longer viewed her choices as small or insignificant. She realized that each decision she made, no matter how small, was a step toward her future. Whether she chose to take the stairs or the elevator, eat a salad instead of a burger, or spend an hour reading instead of scrolling through social media, those decisions mattered. Each choice was an investment in her future, and she was starting to see the snowball effect in action. In the end, the key takeaway from Chapter 2 of The Compound Effect was clear. The decisions you make today are the foundation for the future you'll have tomorrow. Every small choice you make, whether positive or negative, is compounding and will ultimately determine where you end up. So, the next time you're faced with a choice, remember that it's not just a fleeting moment. It's a chance to invest in the future you want to create. The Compound Effect, Chapter 3, Habits. It was early in the morning, and Michael stood in front of his bathroom mirror. His eyes were heavy, his mind foggy, and the urge to hit snooze on his alarm was almost overwhelming. But then he remembered something important. It wasn't just about today, it was about the choices he had made yesterday and the day before. The decisions he had made consistently over time had brought him to where he was now. And if he didn't change his habits, he'd be stuck in this same place tomorrow. This was the core message of Chapter 3 of The Compound Effect, that habits are the small, powerful forces that shape our lives, often without us realizing it. Darren Hardy emphasizes that habits are the compound effect in action. They are the small, repeated actions that, over time, lead to massive changes. Whether they are positive habits, like exercising, reading, or saving money, or negative habits, like procrastination, overeating, or wasting time, our habits are the silent architects of our futures. Michael had always wondered why some people seemed to effortlessly maintain healthy lifestyles, while others struggled. He now realized that it wasn't about willpower or motivation. It was about their habits. These successful individuals had built systems that made positive actions automatic. They didn't have to think about it. They just did it. Hardy explains that habits are powerful because they are consistent and automatic. They allow us to do things without using up our mental energy or willpower. This is why, when we develop positive habits, they become effortless over time. The challenge, however, is that we often don't realize how deeply ingrained our habits are, both good and bad. They can operate in the background of our lives, influencing our decisions without us even thinking about it. The chapter then dives into how habits are formed. It all starts with a decision, no matter how small, which then turns into a repeated action. Over time, these actions become automatic, and we no longer need to think about them. But while this can be powerful in the case of good habits, it can also work against us when we form negative ones. For example, a single piece of chocolate cake might seem harmless, but if it becomes a regular habit, it can lead to unwanted weight gain over time. Similarly, skipping one workout may seem like a minor choice, but if it becomes a habit, it can prevent you from achieving your fitness goals. Michael thought back to his own habits. He had always struggled with procrastination, putting off important tasks until the last minute. He had convinced himself that he worked best under pressure, but in reality, this habit was adding unnecessary stress and making his work less effective. It wasn't just one isolated decision to procrastinate. It was the result of months, even years, of repeating the same behavior. Hardy explains that the key to changing our habits is to focus on small, consistent changes. He suggests starting with one habit at a time, making it small and manageable. For example, if you want to become more productive, start by setting a goal to work for 30 minutes without distractions. As this becomes a habit, you can gradually increase the time and add more goals. This way, you don't overwhelm yourself, and the small wins you experience build momentum, which makes it easier to continue. The chapter also emphasizes that you must be intentional about your habits. If you want to develop positive habits, you need to be proactive about shaping your environment to support those habits. For example, if you want to eat healthier, stock your kitchen with healthy foods and remove temptations. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before, making it easier to get started in the morning. The key is to create an environment where your habits are supported, not hindered. Michael decided to take a more intentional approach to his habits. Instead of waiting for motivation to strike, he began to focus on small, deliberate actions. He started with something simple. Every morning, he made his bed. It wasn't a huge task, but it was a small win that gave him a sense of accomplishment. This small act of discipline made him feel more in control of his day, and it had a ripple effect on other areas of his life. He began to take more intentional actions, one small habit at a time. Hardy also stresses the importance of tracking your habits. If you want to change your behavior, you need to track your progress. By keeping a record of your actions, you can see how your habits are either helping or hindering your progress. Tracking gives you a visual representation of your consistency, which makes it easier to stay accountable to yourself. As Michael tracked his progress, he began to see a clear pattern. When he stuck to his new habits, he felt better, more energized, and more productive. But when he slipped back into his old habits, like staying up late or procrastinating, he felt drained and unmotivated. It was a powerful reminder that our habits are the key to our success or failure. In the end, the key takeaway from Chapter 3 of The Compound Effect was clear. Habits are the invisible forces that shape our lives. Whether we're aware of them or not, our habits are guiding us toward our future. To create the life we want, we need to intentionally cultivate positive habits and eliminate negative ones. By focusing on small, consistent changes, we can transform our lives one habit at a time. The snowball effect of habits will take us from where we are now to where we want to be. The Compound Effect, Chapter 4, Momentum. It was late afternoon, and Sarah found herself sitting at her desk, staring at the same project she had been working on for what felt like hours. Her mind was heavy, her body tired, and her focus was slipping away. She was about to give up when she remembered something her mentor had once told her. Success is like riding a bicycle. The first few pedals are the hardest, but once you gain momentum, it becomes effortless. She smiled to herself, realizing that the key to success wasn't in making huge strides, but in building momentum, one small push at a time. This was exactly what Darren Hardy discussed in Chapter 4 of The Compound Effect, the power of momentum. In this chapter, Hardy reveals that momentum is one of the most powerful forces in achieving success. It's the invisible force that propels you forward once you've started moving. Just like a snowball rolling down a hill, once you've gained momentum, everything becomes easier. The challenge, however, is getting started. Sarah had always struggled with starting projects. She would often procrastinate until the last minute, only to feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of work ahead of her. But now, she understood the key to overcoming that inertia. She needed to take small steps every day to build momentum. Once she started moving, even if it was just a little bit, the momentum would take over and propel her forward. Hardy emphasizes that momentum is built through consistency. It's the compound effect in action. Small, consistent actions lead to big results over time. When you first start a new habit or goal, it feels like you're putting in a lot of effort with little to show for it. But if you stick with it, even when it feels like you're not making much progress, the momentum starts to build, and eventually things get easier. Sarah began applying this principle to her own work. She broke down her project into smaller tasks and made a commitment to work on it for just 10 minutes a day. At first, it felt like a slow and tedious process, but over time, those 10-minute sessions added up. Slowly but surely, she began to make progress, and the work that once felt overwhelming became manageable. More importantly, she began to feel a sense of accomplishment with each small step. As her momentum grew, so did her confidence. The chapter also highlights how momentum works in both directions. It can be positive or negative. Hardy explains that just as positive momentum can push you toward your goals, negative momentum can pull you away from them. It's easy to fall into a downward spiral, where one bad decision leads to another. For example, skipping one workout might seem harmless, but if it becomes a habit, it can lead to a complete lack of motivation and a sedentary lifestyle. Similarly, one unhealthy meal might seem inconsequential, but when it becomes a pattern, it can lead to weight gain and poor health. Sarah reflected on her own life and realized how negative momentum had affected her. She had allowed small, seemingly harmless habits, like watching TV instead of exercising or procrastinating on important tasks, to build up over time. These negative habits had created a cycle of inertia, making it harder and harder to take action. She understood now that the key to breaking that cycle was to start small, build momentum in the right direction, and keep pushing forward. Hardy emphasizes that it's all about starting small. The first step is the hardest, but once you've taken it, it gets easier. The key is to keep moving, even when it feels like you're not making any progress. The small actions you take every day will eventually build momentum and propel you toward your goals. And once that momentum is in motion, it becomes easier to keep going. One of the most important lessons from Chapter 4 is that momentum doesn't happen by chance. It's something you have to actively work for. By setting clear goals, breaking them down into small steps, and taking consistent action, you begin to build the momentum that will carry you toward success. The more you do something, the easier it becomes, and the more progress you make, the more momentum you gain. Sarah had her breakthrough moment when she realized that she didn't need to wait for motivation to strike. The trick was to take small actions, even when she didn't feel like it. She found that as she started making those small moves toward her goals, momentum kicked in. The work became less daunting, and her energy and motivation grew. Hardy also stresses that you must be patient with the process. Building momentum doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, and it requires persistence. Sarah had to remind herself that success wasn't about making giant leaps forward. It was about taking consistent steps, no matter how small they seemed. The key to building momentum was in the commitment to keep going, even on days when she didn't feel like it. In conclusion, Chapter 4 of The Compound Effect teaches us that momentum is the force that turns small, consistent actions into massive success. It's the invisible engine that drives us forward, turning seemingly insignificant actions into extraordinary results. Whether you're working toward a personal goal, a career milestone, or a fitness achievement, the key to success is building momentum. Start small, stay consistent, and watch as the momentum builds and propels you toward the future you desire. The Compound Effect, Chapter 5, Influence. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the city as Jessica sat at her favorite cafe, sipping her coffee. She looked around at the people chatting, laughing, and going about their day. She realized something that she hadn't fully grasped before. The people we spend time with have an enormous impact on the direction our lives take. It's not just about the big decisions we make. It's about the subtle, often unconscious influences of the people around us. This was the central theme of Chapter 5 of The Compound Effect. Darren Hardy explores how the people we choose to associate with influence our thoughts, actions, and ultimately, our future. Whether we're aware of it or not, the influence of our friends, family, coworkers, and even the media we consume shapes who we become. It's the silent force that guides us toward success or failure, depending on who or what we allow into our lives. Jessica had always considered herself independent, but as she reflected on her own life, she realized that her social circle had a significant impact on her decisions. Her friends were always talking about going out, eating unhealthy foods, and complaining about their jobs. They often discouraged her from trying new things, telling her that it was too risky or that she would fail. At first, it seemed harmless. After all, she was just going along with the flow. But now, she saw how these influences had been subtly shaping her actions and keeping her from achieving her goals. Hardy explains that we are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Our friends, family, colleagues, and mentors have the power to either lift us up or drag us down. If we surround ourselves with people who encourage us, who challenge us, and who share our values, we are more likely to stay focused and make decisions that align with our goals. But if we spend time with people who are negative, complacent, or resistant to growth, we are more likely to fall into the same patterns. Jessica began to think about her own inner circle. She realized that most of her closest friends were not particularly supportive of her goals. They were content with their current situations and often joked about her dreams, calling them unrealistic. She started to wonder, was it possible that she was letting their limiting beliefs influence her own? Could the people she spent the most time with be unknowingly holding her back from reaching her potential? Hardy stresses that it's not just about spending time with positive people. It's about seeking out those who are further along on the path you want to follow. If you want to be successful in business, for example, you need to surround yourself with people who are already successful in that field. If you want to get fit, spend time with people who prioritize health and fitness. The people we associate with should challenge us to be better, to push ourselves beyond our limits, and to keep growing. Jessica knew that in order to take her life to the next level, she needed to surround herself with people who could inspire and support her. She started seeking out mentors, attending networking events, and building relationships with individuals who were successful in the areas she wanted to grow in. Slowly, she began to feel the positive influence of these people. They didn't just motivate her. They challenged her thinking, encouraged her to take action, and offered advice that helped her avoid common pitfalls. Hardy also talks about the influence of our environment, not just the people around us. Our physical surroundings, the books we read, the media we consume, all of these contribute to the mindset we cultivate. If we're constantly surrounded by negativity, clutter, or distractions, it's harder to stay focused on our goals. But if we create an environment that supports our success, we make it easier to stay on track. This might mean organizing your workspace, choosing uplifting content to consume, or even limiting time spent on social media. Jessica realized that, in addition to changing her social circle, she also needed to change her environment. She began decluttering her workspace, filling it with inspiring books and motivational quotes. She stopped watching TV shows that drained her energy and started reading books that aligned with her personal growth goals. She also made a conscious effort to limit her time on social media, choosing to follow people who shared positive, motivating messages. Hardy reminds us that influence is a two-way street. It's not just about who we allow to influence us. It's about how we influence others as well. The people we spend time with are not only shaping our lives, they're also shaped by us. By choosing to be a positive influence on others, we can create a ripple effect that extends beyond our immediate circle. As Jessica worked on her own growth, she found that she was also inspiring others. She began to share her journey, her successes, and even her struggles, and soon, she noticed that her friends and family were becoming more supportive of her goals. They began to ask questions, express interest in her new projects, and even offer their help. It wasn't that she was trying to change them. It was that her own growth had sparked a change in their mindset. Hardy concludes the chapter by urging us to be intentional about the people and influences we allow into our lives. If we want to achieve big things, we need to make sure we are surrounding ourselves with people who will encourage, challenge, and support us. Our success is not only determined by the actions we take, but also by the people and environments we choose to immerse ourselves in. In the end, Jessica understood that the right influences could make all the difference. By being intentional about the people she surrounded herself with, the environment she created, and the content she consumed, she had the power to shape her future. She had taken control of the influence in her life, and with that, she was ready to make the changes necessary to achieve her dreams. The Compound Effect, Chapter 6, Acceleration. The rain had just begun to fall as John made his way home, the rhythmic sound of droplets tapping against his umbrella matching the rhythm of his thoughts. His mind was racing, reflecting on everything he had learned over the past few months. He had started small, taking tiny steps toward his goals, building positive habits, and accumulating momentum. But now he could feel something shifting. Things weren't just moving forward anymore. They were accelerating. This is the essence of Chapter 6 of the Compound Effect, Acceleration. Darren Hardy explains that once you've built momentum and are consistently taking small, positive actions, you reach a point where your progress doesn't just continue. It begins to accelerate. It's the magic that happens when all the pieces fall into place, and you begin to see results that come faster and more powerfully than you ever imagined. John had been working on his fitness goals for several months. At first, it felt like he was moving through mud. He would drag himself to the gym, barely able to get through a workout. But as time passed, something started to change. His body became stronger, his endurance increased, and his motivation grew. He had built momentum, but now he was experiencing something even more exciting: acceleration. Hardy emphasizes that acceleration is the point at which your effort, compounded over time, yields exponential results. It's no longer just about the slow, steady progress you made at the beginning. Now, the results come faster, more intensely, and with less effort. This is where the real magic happens. Once you've built momentum, you tap into a new level of energy and focus. The results you see are no longer linear. They are exponential. John's fitness journey had started with small, consistent efforts. At first, he'd see tiny improvements like being able to run a little farther or lift a little more weight. But over time, as he continued to put in the work, those small wins started to add up. His body adapted, and he found himself making bigger strides. Now he was experiencing the exhilarating feeling of acceleration, where his progress began to snowball, and the results came faster than he could have imagined at the start. Hardy explains that acceleration requires discipline, focus, and a willingness to push through the early, slow stages of growth. It's easy to become frustrated when results don't show up right away. But Hardy reminds us that the early stages of growth are crucial. They are the foundation for the exponential growth that comes later. If we stick with the process long enough, we'll eventually reach a tipping point where things begin to snowball. John realized that the hardest part of any goal is staying consistent through this slow phase. It was during those early months of slow progress that he had felt like quitting. But now, looking back, he saw how the small, consistent actions had laid the groundwork for the success he was experiencing. His initial discipline and focus had created the foundation for the acceleration that he was now enjoying. Hardy also talks about the importance of increasing the size of your actions as you begin to accelerate. Once you've built momentum, you need to keep challenging yourself. The effort you put in must continue to grow in order to keep accelerating. For John, this meant pushing himself harder in his workouts, increasing the intensity of his exercises, and setting bigger goals. As his progress began to accelerate, so did his level of effort. The bigger his actions became, the faster he advanced. At this stage of acceleration, it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. John began to fine-tune his workouts, focusing on the most effective exercises and making sure he was eating the right foods to fuel his body. It was less about putting in more time and more about putting in the right kind of effort. Hardy emphasizes that acceleration is about making the most of your momentum. When you're in the right flow, it's easier to push yourself to higher levels because the momentum is doing much of the work for you. John's results began to snowball. He wasn't just getting stronger. He was gaining confidence, feeling more energized, and achieving goals faster than ever before. He realized that his progress was now accelerating, and he was able to do things that once seemed impossible. What had felt like an uphill battle in the beginning was now an exhilarating ride. Hardy's message is clear. Once you build momentum, don't stop. Keep pushing, keep challenging yourself, and keep seeking ways to accelerate your progress. The key to accelerating your results is to continuously raise the bar and take action that pushes you outside your comfort zone. The more you grow, the more you'll be able to handle. As your capacity for success increases, so does your ability to achieve even bigger goals. John's story illustrates the point that acceleration isn't just about the results you get, it's about the mindset you adopt. To truly accelerate, you need to adopt a mindset of growth, constantly looking for ways to improve and push yourself further. The most successful people are those who understand that growth is a continuous process. Once they hit a plateau, they don't stop. They find ways to push beyond it. Hardy also reminds us that acceleration is contagious. When you start to see your results accelerating, it's not just about the results you're achieving for yourself. Your success begins to influence those around you. People notice the positive changes in your life, and they may begin to ask how you did it. Your progress becomes an inspiration for others, and in turn, you inspire them to take action and create their own momentum. By the end of the chapter, John had come to a powerful realization. The key to success isn't just about working hard or being lucky. It's about creating a cycle of momentum that leads to acceleration. By taking small, consistent actions over time, you build the foundation for exponential results. Once momentum is in place, acceleration becomes inevitable. The more you push yourself, the faster your success will come. In conclusion, Chapter 6 of the Compound Effect is about how to harness the power of momentum to reach a point of acceleration. Once you've built momentum through consistent effort, your progress will start to snowball. To keep that acceleration going, you need to keep challenging yourself and pushing your limits. When you do, you'll find that success comes faster and with less effort. With acceleration, the possibilities are endless. And the best part is that it's available to anyone who is willing to take consistent action and never give up. Conclusion. As you reflect on everything we've learned from the compound effect, it becomes clear that success doesn't happen overnight. It's the small, consistent actions we take every day that compound over time, leading us to results far greater than we could have imagined. From building momentum to experiencing acceleration, each step in the process is critical to achieving long-term success. By focusing on the power of consistent effort, surrounding ourselves with the right influences, and maintaining the discipline to keep moving forward, we can create the life and success we desire. Now it's your turn. Take the lessons from this book and apply them to your own life. Remember, every small action counts. Keep pushing, keep building momentum, and soon enough, you'll see the acceleration that will propel you toward your goals. If you found this breakdown helpful and inspiring, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for more summaries, insights, and tips to help you on your personal growth journey. Keep learning, keep growing, and take action toward your success today.